You're listening to Punisher Waterfowls, the Union 0430 podcast. Brought to you by Real Geese Decoys, the most technologically advanced silhouette decoy on the market. First Light, the best hunting gear on the planet. Go farther, stay longer. And Ducklander Calls, tradition, education, and quality, built to hunt.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Union 0430 episode 219. And we have Scott Rumble from Gander Ridge Retrievers on tonight. But before we get to Scott, I do have to take a chance to thank our sponsors of First Light, Real Geese, and Ducklander Calls. Without you, this show would not be possible. So thank you so much for your continued support. And we really would like it if all of our listeners went and showed them some love and checked out her socials. And of course, we've got to say thank you to Captain Jeff Coates, the voice of the Union 0430 podcast. Captain Jeff Coates from Pit Boss Waterfowl out of Maryland, US of A. As you can see, if you're watching, only Craig is on tonight. Philly is working. Mark just got a new quad, and he took it out for a ride today, and then I don't know how far he went, but then he had to bring it home and clean it. So he's at that. But so we could just me and Craig on, and we've got Scott Rumble from Gander Ridge Retrievers. And if you're from Ontario and you've had your dog trained professionally, probably a good chance it came through Scott, because there's not many dogs that are being trained professionally that you don't have your mitts on at some point, Scott. So welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me. That's true. I've been at the game now 12 years full time. So
yeah,
it's getting ready to get real busy here real quick. So,
well, yeah, like we're into that time of year, and this is very fitting. Did I tell you when we were chatting last week that the peer pressure is on Craig to get a dog? And so this is really good that you're here, because we can continue with the peer pressure.
I wanted to make sure I was on there, just ask some questions.
Yeah.
Perfect. Fire away.
Yeah, this is the fella that you can ask me all kinds of questions, but now you can get it straight from the horse's mouth.
Yep.
But Scott, it is that. Oh, and I also got to add to Scott's intro is that he is a competition goose caller, and he works with GK calls out of Michigan, right? GK is out of Michigan?
Yep.
Yeah.
Troy, Michigan. Yep.
Troy, Michigan. So
yep.
All around good dude, and a wealth of knowledge, and we're going to pick his brains throughout the show tonight, and Craig's going to hammer him with some good questions, because but in all seriousness, there's probably a ton of people that are wondering and thinking about taking that step into getting a gun dog or a retriever for hunting, and and Craig is one of them. So it'll be a good episode, because there'll be questions coming out where not only is Craig curious about it, but I'm sure there's other people listening that are wondering the same thing. So
and it's really good to actually sit down and think about stuff, because a lot of people procrastinate. They think getting a puppy and then, whoa, where are we going to go from here kind of deal, and they don't even consider training.
Well,
and then when it comes time to get Fido trained, they call me, and it's like I'm already booking into 2026. So
yeah,
like you really gotta not only picking a puppy, doing your homework, you got to do your homework on getting a dog trained as well.
Well, yeah, and we'll go through all that, but I can remember even just some of the little things that I was telling Craig like to think about, and it had nothing to do with training. I was like, hey, listen, this is some things that you need to be wary about. And he was like, oh crap, I didn't even think about those things. And neither did I until after the puppy was in the house, right? So but you did bring it up, like this is, you know, we're at the 20th of March today. And, you know, here in Ontario, everything's drying up and the warm weather is just around the corner. And I've seen, you know, the last couple of days, Scott, you've been on social media and you're doing some work out in the fields, and you can already see it. The fields are drying up, and, you know, you're able to get outside now and do that bumper work. And even, you know, we'll be all over the place at this show, on this show tonight. But I watched your post the other day, and it was a very, very simple thing. And I loved watching it because not a lot of people stick to it. And that was the video you done with you telling the pup when she can come out of her kennel, and not her deciding when she comes out of her kennel. Or
coming out of the trailer.
Out of the trailer, out of the truck, out of the dog hole, whatever, right?
Very, very important.
Well, yeah. Not only for, I know I've seen Bill Kennedy in his brand new truck, and, you know, the dog that wasn't his, but he was sort of kind of transporting, that dog really wasn't properly introduced to how to get up into the dog hole. And his brand new truck had a nice scratch down the side of it of a dog trying to climb up. So it's little things like that. So I guess, you know, for me, I guess the starter question would be, you know, you've decided that you're going to get a pup. You've done the homework, and Craig, you can get into your questions on what leads you to getting the dog, or perhaps we should start there and then instead of going backwards. So I'll turn it over to you, Craig, and instead of me rambling on, and then we got to go back to you.
Yeah, I think, especially after being at the sportsman shows, like I was talking to a lot of people that either are brand new to waterfowl hunting or thinking about getting into waterfowl hunting. So a lot of people, and even seasoned hunters as well, still in kind of the same spot as me, that haven't had a dog, whether just hunting dog or like myself, I've never had a dog in general. So, you know, kind of starting right from scratch and looking at all the things you have to consider as far as what dog you want, whether even right down to species. But I know for me, you know, we're pretty set on a lab, and then weighing out what do you need as far as, you know, strictly working dog, or is it a family dog? Because like for myself, you know, I'm not a hardcore hunter. I'm not gonna, like, I don't need one of those dogs that a lot of the guides have, where it's like it's a huge drive, and, you know, it's not gonna have, I'm not gonna give it enough work, sort of thing, right? And it's gonna leave
fire breather.
Yeah,
that's what.
So it's So yeah, just kind of weighing out those sorts of aspects of when you're trying to make your decision, what you're looking for, and how to decide on those sorts of things, and just what you're looking for when you've kind of when you figured out what it is you want out of the dog. What are you looking for to piece that together?
I always tell everybody, outside of health clearances and stuff like that, after that has been taken care of, like hips, eyes, elbows, EIC, CNM, I always tell everybody, if you would like to own the mother or the father, chances are it'd be a pretty good pup for you.
Yeah, that's solid.
Like I have, what happened?
Nothing. You're still good.
Still good?
Yeah, you're good.
Yep.
Okay.
You're
I think the worst thing you can do is get a fire breathing dragon when you've never owned a dog before, handled a dog. I think, one, it's frustrating for the owner and frustrating for the dog. Mm-hmm. A dog that is 100 miles an hour and go, and it doesn't get to work like that all the time, I think it's a tough dog to train, personally, for the average person.
Mm-hmm. I would add to that, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Scott. It's not so much that the dog is hard to train, because I think the dog has the drive and the smarts. It could be frustrating on the owner, because I was a brand new dog owner when it come to a retriever for hunting, and I got a fire breather, and it was frustrating for me to be able to keep up with her. Not so much that it was hard to train her. She was very easy to train. But
because they have the drive to do it.
But I found it was frustrating for me to keep up with her and then try to keep her reeled in when I wanted her reeled in, when she's just ready to go. Right. So I didn't want.
Oh, exactly. A dog like that will test you all the time, Damien. Like those fire breathers. Ooh, baby.
Yeah.
So to add, if you're inexperienced, don't know the lingo, are trying to do it on your own by video or book, you could be in for a world of trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's where it's like I've said all along, like, because like I, not even as a kid, like a family dog, anything like that, like no family experience with the dog whatsoever. So my expectation is that if I, when it comes time to get a dog, it'll be going out to somebody like yourself, just because, and these guys have heard me say it over and over. My concern is getting, investing all this in a dog, getting a good dog, and then it going to waste, basically, right? Like, yeah, if I'm trying to just read off the internet, watch YouTube videos and totally screw it up, the dog's not happy, I'm not happy, my wife's not happy because it's probably chewing everything or whatever, right? So yeah, like that's something that I've considered all along. That it's just an additional investment is like I know that I have to make sure I've got the money there to be able to afford that as well, over and above everything else, just getting set up.
Yeah, exactly. And the biggest thing is when you get a young puppy like that, is the initial socialization and setting boundaries. I get dogs that come to my place have never been on a leash. And I tell you, for the first 3 weeks, it's a nightmare because they've got no boundaries and they think they're the boss all the time.
Yeah.
So we got to wheel her back and start right from square one. And this dog could be 8, 9, 10 months old, right? So
I've heard many people say that, you can have all the aspirations for your dog that you want, and you can have, the pocketbook to send your dog to a trainer. But if your dog doesn't have simple obedience before it even goes to the trainer, then you're adding a few more weeks onto your training bill right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just boundaries, like teaching that puppy from the beginning, it learns how to learn. So if you do nothing with it, it's just crazy, out of control. It just takes more time to get the foundation established.
Yeah.
And so that was another question I had, like, and because I've run this by Damien before and Phil as well, like just the idea of like, okay, bringing a puppy home, are you starting with just like a basic obedience type thing, and sort of what would kind of be an ideal? And I know it's always hard to kind of talk in ideals because everything's different, but kind of what's a good timeline to just be working on just basic obedience and just the standard type stuff before moving into like actual retriever training or sending it off to somebody like yourself?
Formal training won't start until their adult teeth come in. So normally around 6 months, depends on the dog. Mm-hmm. But I always tell everybody, start your training when you bring the puppy home, 7 or 8 weeks, and everything's fun and positive. Use a lot of treats. A great video is Duck Dog Basics by Chris Aiken. Mm-hmm. He he showed you how to introduce to a pigeon and get it introduced, crate train it, take it for rides in the truck. Just put it on a leash, and basically you're just setting boundaries, and everything's learning by fun and repetition. It's not a formal training, kind of speak.
Also, Scott, and let me know if you agree with this or not, but at that 10, 11 week mark, when you're bringing the puppy home, And listen, it's exciting, right? Especially if you're bringing the dog home and you want it to become a retriever and a dog that you're going to carry with you on all your hunts and stuff. Like you're building a bond, and it's pretty exciting when you bring that dog home. But you got to let that puppy be a puppy too. It can't be
absolutely.
It cannot be a rigid, aggressive style when that puppy comes home. You've got to let the puppy be a puppy. And you said it there, Scott, when you said it's got to have fun. If the dog thinks it's work, chances are it's not gonna do it. But if you can make the dog think that they're playing while they're doing it, I think you're in for a good dog.
Oh, exactly. And I think the worst thing you can do is just, everybody wants to throw retrieve, get the dog retrieving.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's good, but it can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
I've saw it where dogs get so hyper and out of control. And later down the road, you get a dog that, whines at the line and barks at the line and, whimpers in the dog blind. And I just find restricting the retrieves, I think all through until you get completely done training,
mm-hmm.
helps with a calmer dog. I truly believe it. If you just throw everything and that dog gets to retrieve every session, I think it tends to bring out hyperness in a dog. Like if you come home, your dog's been in a crate all day, you come home from work, and the first thing you do is let that dog out and just start firing tennis balls or bumpers or whatever. Man, that dog is going to be wound for sound.
You're creating a monster.
You create a monster. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
The best thing you can do is come home, put that dog, make it sit, get in on a dog stand, walk it heel, do some obedience with it. Hey, it does all good and it's calm. Throw a retrieve, and that's it for the night.
Yeah.
And then move on from there.
You can
create a demon.
Yeah. That's good to know because, just me, again, having no experience, I would think, dog's been stuck there all day, come in, just start throwing balls, get it running, use up some energy. But that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what my wife.
And if you want to tire them out, instead of throwing bumpers, just take them for a walk or take them for a run.
Yeah.
That will do more than that'll get his, exercise, and you can still work on obedience while you're going. So you're killing two birds with one stone. And that's important in dog training.
I also believe that, and I don't want this to come across as bad or anything, but I also believe the type of trainer that you send your dog to will determine, I know this might sound like obvious, but it'll determine the type of dog you got. And what I mean by that is this. If you want your dog to be a hunting dog, then send it to a hunting dog trainer. If you want your dog to be in field trials, send it to a field trial trainer. Because it's two vastly different things. And my dog came from a field trial line. Bill Kennedy is who trained her for the most part. And Bill's a field trial guy. And listen, I'm on board with, Craig, you had said that, you don't need a dog to do some of the crazy things that some people get their dogs to do. Well, I'm on board with the fact that I want my dog to know how to do a 400-yard retrieve, because guaranteed there's going to be some point in my time when I'm going to have a goose sail 200, 300, 400 yards, and I need my dog to go do it. But the other thing is that my dog, because she's trained by a field trial guy, I think her manners on the line aren't what they should be for a hunting dog, if that makes sense. Because the field trial guys, they got to have manners, but not to the point that she needs to be rock solid in a blind. Does that make sense?
not for 20 minutes or a half hour
Yeah.
or an hour.
Yeah.
Like a field trial dog gets out of the truck, goes to the line, runs a test, and
Yeah.
they got to be quiet.
Yeah.
A dog may sit in the dog blind for 3 hours before you fire a shot, right?
That's right.
Because I would have thought.
And I think the difference between me and don't get me wrong, I'll do field trial setups.
Yeah.
Is the amount of time I spend with dogs.
Right.
Like I'm limited on what I take. I take 10 dogs a year. That's it. So, and I'm the guy from the beginning when they get here to when they go home. I am the only one that handles them. I don't have assistants that do obedience. I don't have, and at night I'll go out to the shop and I'll have a coffee and I'll make 5 of them sit on dog stands.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know a lot of kennels, they won't do that. When it's quitting time, it's quitting time. Like they're not going out to have a coffee with the dogs and stuff. And that's one thing I pride myself on. Like, I don't know, I've been doing it for 12 years and I've been around, I've saw everything, and I've taken bits and pieces from different trainers that I've come across and trained with. And I'm just trying to build my own little repertoire.
Yeah.
And consistency, and so far, knock on wood, we're getting results. So
I was going to say, just like to what you're saying, Damien, I would have thought the other way. I think I would have thought that the dogs would have had to be more exact in a field trial setting, but like I was thinking there, like they're going to have to be like exact all the time, like following the commands. But I could see like hunting wise, like it's a lot more important, right? Like stuff can go wrong if the dog's not behaving properly, if it's not following everything exactly.
Yeah. So with the field trial guys, they've got to be on point. Like they cannot deviate.
Oh yeah.
Like when they're sent on a line to go retrieve, like they cannot deviate from that line.
Okay.
Right. Like it is very, very strict. What I'm talking about.
Very strict.
Yeah, like ridiculous. Like the dogs that win on field trials, like they are impressive. Like they do not deviate off their line a half a foot. Like they are.
You could draw a chalk line.
Yeah.
You can draw a chalk. You can draw a chalk line off their tail.
That's right. What I'm talking about.
I think it's a totally different.
It is because
thing. Like, yeah, you got to be disciplined in the field trials.
Yeah. No, go for it, Scott.
I think it's a totally different scenario. Yes, dogs in field trials got to be strict and obey and disciplined and everything else, but it's a totally different scenario when that dog hasn't sat for 3 hours.
That's right.
Before you fire a gun or do a retrieve.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could take a hunting dog out to the field trial line and it could lose its mind, or vice versa. You could take a field trial dog and put it in a hunting blind and make him sit there for 4 hours. Could be the best dog in the world. That dog might be losing his mind. But I have saw field trial dogs that are calm.
Oh, I have.
But they're trained. I think they're trained in both scenarios and stuff. And don't get me wrong, there's some dogs that can do everything. There's very few.
Yeah.
Like very few field trial dogs make hunt test dogs and hunting dogs. Like Sean Stahl is one exception. His dog Deuce and Carl with a K.
Carl with a K. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable dogs. But Stahl runs them. Stahl works them. Stahl trains them.
There's I'll say this, and I'm not throwing shade on CKC or HRC or field trial or hunting, and there's always an exception. There's always a dog that can do it all. There's always a dog that you know of that can do it. But I tell you what, my dog You sit my dog down in a blind and you come onto a duck call for 40 fucking minutes and not send her. You watch that dog climb the blind and just absolutely lose her fucking mind because she once that duck call starts being blown, it's go time. And
game on.
It's game on, and she's vibrating and she's whining and she wants to go. And I'm telling you, that's
one thing that, like, it's important. Like, I know when I'm here, I have 10 dogs out in the kennel. They hear duck and goose calls all the time because if I'm tuning calls or whatever, right? Like, it's just, I think it's important to try to get them used to everything. Like, man, they hear me learn how to spec call, and I bet you that doesn't sound very good, but we're learning.
Yeah, there's a sound file coming to you in a couple of days, actually, on a spec call you're going to have to pick apart.
Oh, boy, I'm not very good either, so maybe we could take lessons together.
Yeah. No, Craig, like, I just think, I think for you, knowing your family, I think you have the right mindset where you're like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to send it away to get trained. Like, I'll bring it home at 10 weeks old and we'll love it and we'll treat it like a pup. Yeah. We'll teach discipline and stuff. But when it comes to the training aspect of it, I'm going to send it to a pro, which is what I did. I did the exact same thing, because I needed someone to do the framework. I can do the maintenance, but I couldn't start it, right? So I keep up the maintenance, but I had all the groundwork done for me, right? And I think I honestly think that's the proper way to do it.
Yeah, it's like anything.
The groundwork
is somebody that gets hired to do things professionally. It's like there's a reason why people have certain jobs.
That's right.
And people don't realize how much goes into the groundwork. Like, it is a lot of work. People think, oh, you just spend 5-10 minutes with a dog. Not happening. Like, I'm telling you, and you got to know how to fix when problems arise. You got to know how to correct them, because if you don't, you can get into trouble.
Mm-hmm. So here's a question for you, buddy, and this is one that I've heard fellas ask, and I've heard fellas say, well, that's too much or whatever. If somebody dropped off, so let's say, 6 months old, adult teeth are in, and they're ready. Obedience is good. So no problems whatsoever when the dog is dropped off to you. When you're talking to the owner, what is the baseline for time? So are you saying 2 months is baseline for you? Hey, listen, you want a dog that's ready to hunt this fall? Then I'm going to need a month, or I'm going to need 2 months of training. And then when I hand the dog over, I can be confident to say that you can take the dog in the blind and hunt.
With my program, 4 months.
4 months?
It takes me a month for obedience and collar conditioning.
Yeah.
It'll take me a month to force fetch.
Mm-hmm.
So that's on the table, force fetch on the ground, force to pile.
Yeah.
And then steady to singles and doubles on land, singles and doubles on water, and started casting on land and water.
Yeah.
That's not running blind. That's just starting.
Yep. And that's 4 months.
Yep.
And I think that's an important thing. So people will say, yeah, I'm going to send my dog to a trainer. And I've heard the stories from trainers when fellas have dropped off their dog and said, yeah, I'll drop her off for a couple weeks. Couple weeks, you're getting your dog to sit and stay at a couple weeks.
Put it this week, it takes a week just for that dog to get used to being in the kennel.
Right. Yeah.
So the first week is just learning who I am and routines, driving around in the truck and like.
So with
Yeah.
stuff like that,
So-
like getting everything prepared, like working on your obedience before dropping the dog off to you, like, so would you be working on force fetching at home before dropping the dog off, or would like it just avoid that and leave it to you sort of thing?
I wouldn't. I would, if you're going to get a pro to do it, I would let the pro do it.
Okay.
The only thing I did with mine was, and she still had her puppy teeth in, is in the hallway, just to sort of kick drive her, to kickstart her drive. I would throw paint rollers down the hallway. That
Yeah.
was it.
Perfect.
I'd throw those down the hallway and just, make a pile of noise, clapping and good girl when she would bring it back. But other than that, I did no retriever, no nothing.
Okay.
She was a puppy.
Oh,
It was just obedience, and I'd throw paint rollers down the hallway in the evening. That was
my
it.
last puppy, I went and bought some my last puppy, I bought some pigeons.
Yeah.
And when it was 10 weeks old, I just introduced him to birds, get them chased around the yard and stuff. But other than that,
Yeah.
just let them have fun. Let them be a puppy.
100%.
They're if they're retrievers, they're born to retrieve. And every dog matures different. Everybody wants, my 6-month-old did a 150-yard retrieve and whatever. I've had dogs from the same litter where they both turn out great, but they both excelled at different rates. Like you have one puppy that the beginnings, they just, man, you think it's going to be the superstar, and it plateaus off, and the one that takes a little more time shoots up above it and overtakes it. It's crazy how every dog is different, and you know that you'll be out doing a drill and you'll be like, man, this dog's never going to get it, and all of a sudden they're handling, you're starting pattern blinds. It's like, man, it's all starting to click. And that's all from doing the foundations.
Here's one for you, because I know somebody is listening to this show right now and they're absolutely fucking vibrating listening to us because they just picked up some mutt on the side of the road and their dog is killing it as a retriever. And you know what? 100% those dogs exist.
Oh, for sure. I could tell you this. My very first retriever that I ever bought was not registered. Yeah. I got it from a local hunting guy.
Absolutely.
And I remember going to a hunting test up in Kingston, and my dog ran as a test dog and absolutely smoked the test.
Yeah.
And one of the judges said, where'd you get that? What bloodline's that dog out of? And I said, that dog's not even registered. Well, I kind of got blackballed.
Yeah.
And, but man, she was an unbelievable hunting dog.
No,
unbelievable. Would do anything for you.
And they're out there. There's lots of those dogs that are out there. The only thing for me when it comes to getting a registered dog is I can look at the pedigree and I can look at the health. That's all the pedigree does for you. It gives you some history.
Well, exactly.
It gives you some history.
I always
the bitch and the sire, and then it gives you.
I always explain
medical stuff. Sorry, Scott.
Exactly. I always explain it to people like this, Damien. If I'm going to buy a horse and I want to win the Kentucky Derby, you don't just buy the Amish horse down on the corner. You buy bloodlines.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It improves your chances and the health and everything else.
Here's one. Here's something for you that I just found out the other day. So we had a dog that we trained. We got her up to about, I think she was 13 months old when we sold her. And I got nothing to hide. We got her to about 13 months old. Then we sold her. We sold her for $6,000. A great family adopted her, took her, and they're big time hunters. The whole bit. I have a friend in New York, and him and his wife will sell started dogs. Do you know what they're selling their started dogs at? So at 12, 13 months,
10 grand,
12 US.
Oh yeah.
That's what a started dog is going for down there. And that's a dog that you're able to take out into the blind, and you can cast, and it'll do a 200-yard retrieve if it needs to. But that's what you're looking at with the cost of food, the cost of fuel,
training,
and the training, $12K,
and the puppy,
So $12K, but
it's not cheap.
It is not cheap, but I will tell you this, Craig, and this is why I keep putting the pressure on you, because I want you to get a dog, because it's honestly, hunting ducks and geese is so much fun. Imagine it with a dog, because you have no idea how much fun it is to watch your dog work.
Yeah.
That's like, I could care less if I ever shoot another goose or duck again. But I'll go out and I'll run my dog every day, and I'm just as excited for someone else to shoot them and watch that's what I get. I get my little pop in my step when she does a crazy good retrieve, and people are like, holy smokes, that was awesome. That's when I'm like, yeah, that's
well, and for me too, it's like, again, never having grown up with a dog, never having that experience. Like, I know my boys would love it, and especially now, like, Caleb's just starting hunting, so to just even have them have that experience of having a dog growing up, and then being able to hunt with that as they start too.
Yeah.
And like, it would be a pretty cool experience, right? And brand new experience for me, something for them to enjoy and help with and develop as well. And that's where it was cool to hear, like, you kind of giving the timeline of when you would bring the dog to you. Because another question I always had, especially never having had that experience of bringing a dog up, bringing it home from a puppy and bonding with it. Because I knew I always wanted to send it away, but then I was always like, well, but then am I losing out on that opportunity to train that dog, to bond with that dog or whatever? But I guess I didn't realize, I thought you would send it off earlier. So I thought, like, it would still be younger when you send it off. So you wouldn't have as much time with it.
Put it this way, they don't forget you. They will. I had a dog here, dropped off at 5 months old, wasn't picked up until it was fully trained, and that dog did not forget its owner.
Oh yeah.
I'll put it this
way. And the
way.
owner only came 2 or 3 times to train, so they don't forget.
I'll put it to you this way. My dog, and people can tell me I'm crazy for doing this, my dog sleeps on the bed with me. My dog is, if I'm watching
What's wrong with that?
If I'm watching TV, my dog is on my lap. When my dog went with Bill Kennedy, she was not sleeping on the bed. She was in a kennel, and she trained, and then she went in her kennel, and she trained, she went in her kennel. When I picked her up, I can promise you she did not forget me, and she was like, back to the good times, sleeping on the bed.
But the funny thing is, Damien, those dogs, when they go out training all day and they come back and they get fed their supper, all they want to do is sleep, because they're going to do it again and recuperate. They, like, I can go in the kennel at night and there'd be 10, 11 dogs sound asleep in there, and they don't even know I'm in there.
Yeah.
They're wore out. They work hard every day.
That's the one thing. And I've heard people say this, your first dog, you'll make a few mistakes, and then you'll say, well, when your next dog comes, that's the one thing I will do with the next one is properly train the dog for the crate, because I didn't train my dog for the crate. And there's time, and
very important,
very, very important. And I do think that it is a very, very important thing. And there's nothing wrong with your dog at night sleeping in a crate. And that is when I get another one, I can promise you that will be the case, because when it comes to traveling and going long distances, it's better for the dog's safety if the dog is in a crate. And
I imagine it must be calming for them too. I would assume.
It is very calming for them.
Oh yeah,
it's
their home.
It's humans that think it's humans that say, well, the dog doesn't want to be in there. The dog is content in a kennel. we deem the dog is not content in the kennel.
Well, it's cool to see. Like, I remember the first hunting dog that I was ever around, where I just remember watching him being like, this, like the dog didn't need to be told anything. The dog just kind of went about its business, knew exactly what it was supposed to do and what not to. And I'm assuming you must know him, Steve Derbyshire. When I lived down in Wheatley for a bunch of years, working down that area, and I went hunting with him once or twice. But he was working at the M&R building back then, and I wasn't working for the M&R, but I was in that building, and that's how I got to know him. And I just remember, I can't remember the dog's name. I think he had a pup at that time. It was Chip, but it was his older dog. And I just remember sitting at Steve's house and just watching his dog. And it was just like, you didn't need to tell the dog anything. It was just really cool to see, because I've been around other people's dogs and, and not necessarily hunting dogs, but just, they, like most people's dogs, they're not trained very well. They're not well behaved, and his was the first one I was ever around where it's like, this dog just gets it, and it was really, really cool to watch.
I had clients the one time when I was guiding. I had my old dog Sky, and we went out to the blind. We hunted in the morning, and they wanted to go for lunch. Well, my dog's in her little mud hut. We walked back out to the truck, and we're gonna have lunch. And the guy goes, "You're not gonna bring your dog with me?" I'm like, "She's not gonna go anywhere. You'll stay there?" I'm like, "She'll stay there until I tell her to come out of there." So we sat at the trucks for 2 hours, and that dog never left that dog blind. Walked back out there, and away we went.
Yep. It's also the other very, very cool thing about all of this is the dog hunting community, and just how
it's huge.
But it's such a cool community to be a part of, and once you start looking at, like, I on my social feed, I'll see Jeff Coates, who's got 2 dogs right now that he's chasing a master title with. I got
field trials, and going to run field trials, I believe.
Yeah, and then Matt Wilson down in New Brunswick training dogs. Paulie McKinnon in PEI training dogs, Walt Vesey in PEI, Bill Kennedy, and then Carl Clark and Scott Rumble and all these guys, and you're just watching all these people, and every one of them's got something that you're like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do with my dog. And you touched on it, Scott, when you said, when you were talking about building your own system, you take little bits from all these trainers and all these people that you've come across, and you're trying to build your own system and what you like from each person to build your own dog and your own system. And Craig, that's what I'm telling you. You're going to, once you get into this world, it's like, okay, I want my dog to do this, but I didn't really, I don't need it to do that, or I don't like that. And it's such a cool community to be a part of.
Craig, I've got a field trial dog here at my house. If I go out there, and his name's Brody, and I mean, he is a ball of fire. 300-yard marks, 400-yard blinded, whatever, right?
Yeah.
You never know that dog was here. That dog is the most laid-back dog. But when you say, let's roll, and you put him in a kennel, it's go time.
Yeah, it's like
he's steady, but it's all bloodlines. It's all control. You gotta, he's the kind of dog where if you put boundaries in place, he's going to do whatever he can to please you.
Yeah.
He just wants to please you.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the great dogs. Like, I would love to have 10 of those.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
it makes your job easy too, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Like, I would love a dog that could do all those things, and is like, it's like go, go, go. But I'm more concerned about my performance, and I need a dog that can manage his own expectations, so that when he sees me calling birds or sees me stand up and shoot, isn't going to be so completely disappointed in me when I don't drop a bird for it to go grab.
But
we can't guarantee that.
Yeah, but that comes down to, Craig, the thing that you need to take away, and anybody that's listening to this, and Scott, tell me if I'm wrong here, but you pick up your puppy at 10 weeks old, then you have the puppy for a couple weeks. You're bonding with the puppy. You're having fun. You're introducing the puppy to your family and everything. Then you send them away to a trainer, and the trainer does the framework. Once that dog comes back, that's when you continue on with the 20 minutes a day that the trainer told you. But now you're setting the dog up to get used to your attitude and your schedule and your routine, right? So
correct.
It's like there's never a stop to training. Training never stops. Just because it comes back from the
training never stops.
Never stops. And that's the key is consistency. Because when I was approached with buying my dog, I was like, I don't have time to look after a dog. And that's when it was, you need 20 minutes a day. That's it. But it's got to be consistent.
Yeah,
that's right. And I think the biggest thing, like when the dog goes home from me back to the owner, is just the transition.
Yeah,
my voice, my body gestures, everything I do is different than how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
So you doing the drills and the dog, like if you're doing wagon wheel or running T pattern, how you blow a whistle, how I blow a whistle are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if you do the drills and you do your 15 to 20 minutes a night by running the drills, that dog will adjust to you.
That's right.
Just as fast because it knows what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just got to adjust. Okay. Like if I get I've had a dog here that was pretty much close to finish, like starting to run blinds and stuff, pretty sloppy. It only took a week for me and that dog to form a bond to be able to run blinds. Like it's very quick. If they have the foundations down, it doesn't take long at all. It just have to be consistent. You can't, one time say, if you cue the dog to run a blind by saying dead bird, next time you don't say, like some guys use the word line or, it's just being consistent.
So
it happens.
So when somebody picks their dog up, you've got the list of commands that you've taught them, and then so the owner learns all your list of commands, basically, right? And just continues with that.
Yeah, for sure. And I encourage people, once I get the force fetch done and their basic obedience, I encourage owners to come and train with me. Come on down for the day. It's because there's a lot of lingo that I'll say that if you don't know what I'm saying, you'll be like, what the hell is he talking about?
Yeah.
Like why the hell is he telling the dog to get back? Or
Kennedy spent way more time training me than he ever did Lander. And that's a fact.
Yep.
He spent way more time training me.
And you start telling people about, a lot of people get worried about running the e-collar and, you're trying to explain direct pressure and indirect pressure and when you're training a dog, like when I'm out training a dog, I find it hard to try to explain it to people because it's just a second nature to me, right? Like when I stop a dog and I correct a dog with the collar and I recast the dog, it's hard for me to explain what I'm doing, and I don't know why.
Yeah,
but I think it's more. I just want to train the dog. Like I don't like. I want to do.
I also think it comes with experience too, right? Because I'll do things with my dog, and I always train with Bill, right? So I'll do things with my dog and there's times when she fucks me off, right? Like she won't listen to me or she thinks she knows what she's supposed to do and she's just going to do it. And she's like, don't worry. I know what I got to do. And if I'm trying to correct her, right? So it's whistle, nick, cast, right? Well, that's a simple thing to say, but now you've got a remote in your hand, whistle in your mouth, and this hand what you're casting with. And so I think it comes down to experience, Scott. Like when you say, well, this is what you do, and then someone's like, well, I don't really understand. It comes to experience, because I'm like, Jesus,
it does.
I only got two hands. Like I've got four things going on.
Exactly. And it's amazing when you're running a dog and you run a fast dog. It's crazy how far that dog can get in a fraction of a second. Like, I mean, if you're going to blow the whistle and you miss out on 1 second, that son of a bitch is gone. Like, it can be non-forgiving. It's crazy. And it's just,
Mine, I watch her and her shoulder, her front shoulders. I've got to watch her front shoulders, because if she drops one of them, I've got to be on the whistle as soon as she drops the shoulder, because if she drops the shoulder and goes the opposite way that I want her to go, if I'm not quick enough on the whistle, she's going to be way off. And now I'm casting double on what I should have been casting, which hunting wise, when I'm hunting on geese and ducks, it's not a big deal, but testing wise.
I ran a blind yesterday when in the 20-degree weather, when it was nice and not snowing like today, but it had to be about 230 yards, and they had to go down a hill and then across the plateau and then back up a hill. And it was on the top of the hill, and the wind was blowing left to right. I ran my Brody dog. He pretty much lined it, but was 5 feet to the right, fell off the hill, went with the wind, and I missed the whistle by a fraction. And one whistle handle turned into about a 6 whistle handle. So it happens very quickly.
I'll give you a good example.
But if I was out hunting, I'd be like, it's all right.
I'll give you a good example. I was at a hunt test, and we ran test dog. So I watched the test dog, and it was a water blind, and I watched the test dog run the water blind. And it comes to getting to know your dog and knowing what your dog's strengths and weaknesses are, right? So, so I looked at it and I watched the test dog and I watched him cast, and the test dog done a great job, right? And I'm watching, I'm like, if I can send her on this line where she's got to go between these two stumps, then I'm good. And I'm talking to another guy, and the judges are like, I think you're getting a little too technical there with making sure she stays on this line. And I was like, well, I said, if I don't do this, she's going to end up offline, and then I'm fucked. And they were like, no, whatever, right? And anyways, that's what I done. And it was a pain in the ass to get her lined up. Like there was a lot of here and me putting my foot in front of her and trying to get her lined up perfectly. But when I lined her up perfectly in center, it was like an arrow. She went like an arrow. But that's because I knew my dog and I knew what she was going to be like. Other dogs, they didn't have to be that precise with them, because they could have cast them left and right and got them online. But with mine, like it behooves you to make sure her line, she's lined up properly right from the start, because it'll save you a ton of headaches if you can.
That's right.
Yeah.
And people forget dogs are left and right-handed, right?
Yeah.
Some dogs, you blow a whistle, they favor turning to their left. Yeah. Some dogs favor turning to the right.
Mine always turns to the right. Always, every time.
So that, when you get down the road or if you, like, I don't run, I'm not a hunt test guy. I used to be.
Yeah.
I want to get back into it, but I can't justify taking off for a weekend and taking one dog to a test and leaving everybody else here when they're getting paid to train.
That's right.
But eventually I will get back into it. So knowing your dog, if your dog always casts to the left better, you can play the game and
absolutely
favor your dog. Like, your dog. So
yeah, if she's turning to the right, let her run a little bit to the left.
Exactly.
Let her stop, and then when she turns to the right, she's almost in line. So
that's great.
I'm kind of taking up your bandwidth here and questions that you could be asking, Scott. Sorry, buddy.
No, it's all good info for me.
Again, I want you to have a dog.
You need a dog.
Well, I want you to have a dog because Phil has a dog. And
put it this way: if you get a dog, you will never hunt without one again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I say, like, you know, I don't do enough hunting to have like a high strung dog or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, well, but once you get the dog, I can do more hunting because it opens up like just some of the areas around here. It's like I can't do it on my own. Like if I drop a bird, there's no way I'm finding it, right? So there's a lot of big cattail stands in this area that I just won't hunt because if that bird lands and it doesn't fall like a stone in the middle of the water, I'm not going to find it.
Yeah.
So
I was always
I
told
could do more hunting if I had the dog.
I was always told by an old trainer, it costs the same to feed a good one as it does a bad one.
Yeah.
And I have, man, that's like written in permanent ink.
Yeah.
So to go out and buy a puppy, buy the best one you can, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you would love to own the mother and the father, I think it's a win-win.
That's
how I do it.
Analogy. I've never heard that one. But that is a good analogy. If you like the mother and you like the father, chances are you're going to like the puppy.
Yep. And I've done that for years, and so far, knock on wood, they've all been pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be the next thing for me is like just kind of researching how like the selection of the dog sort of thing, right?
Just don't buy a brown one. That's all I'll say. Don't buy a brown dog. Buy a yellow dog or a black dog. That's it.
I'm leaning towards the yellow.
Yeah. Don't get a Chessie. That's the brown one.
Yeah.
or a chocolate. Yeah. But Chessies are good dogs. They're just a little different when it comes to training from what I've seen and what I've learned so far.
My analogy of the Chesapeake is they're not for the faint of the heart.
Yeah.
And trust me, Chessies love to work, and if you don't work them, they get pissed, and then they hold grudges.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
I've
think
got one here.
And I think we've seen them all. We've seen yellows, chocolates, blacks, and Chessies that just doesn't work. But
correct.
I'm not anyways, I'm not going down that route.
Like I said, if you like the mom and the dad, you'll like the pup.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul McKinnon and PEI, hands down,
beauty.
The best Chesapeakes I've ever seen. He's had 2 of them that I've seen. The best I've ever seen. And that is something, not that I've had a ton of experience with Chesapeakes, but I've been around a few of them. The best I've ever seen are Paul McKinnon's. And that's not even a joke. And that's a testament to the amount of training that he does.
For sure. And bloodlines.
Yeah.
If you want a Chessie, you really got to do your homework on a Chessie.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
And I'm just going to leave it at that because I really don't know much about them.
Yeah. And that's like me. I've got limited experience with them. I've seen some really good ones like Paul McKinnon's, and I've seen some fucking bad ones too. So
I saw some bad black labs though, and yellow labs and chocolate labs.
And I've seen some bad labs too. So yeah, it goes all around. Craig, any more questions, buddy?
I don't think so. Other than, so I'd asked Damien and Phil the one time because this one dog came up locally. And so I was looking pretty serious a couple of weeks back. And like the question I had was just like getting started, like, because you can find a lot of products that everybody tells you need to buy. And that was the question I came to those guys with. It's like, you know, if you're looking at bringing a puppy home, what are the basics? Where do you need to start with what you're bringing home to bring that puppy home with you? Like, what do you need versus what everybody wants to sell you?
Like as far as equipment?
Yeah, just the basics to get started at home with obedience and just, you know, housing it. Like,
well, you need a crate, and you need toys, and you need a leash and a paint roller. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't need a lot.
Nope.
Man, you can have a 4-foot piece of rope. That's all you need. You don't need a freaking $500 gunner kennel. You don't need a $60 gunner bumper. You don't need any of that. You need a 99-cent tennis ball and paint roller and a rolled up sock, whatever. Just have fun with the dog. Let it be a puppy.
Yeah. The one, if I was to tell anybody, I would narrow it down a little bit more than what you did, Scott. And I would say you need a kennel, you need a leash, and buy a Kong.
Yep.
That's the only toy.
Yeah.
A Kong. Because they're going to fucking destroy it. Everything else, they'll destroy.
Oh, for sure.
Everything else is destroyable. That fucking Kong, they can't destroy.
Yeah, no, they're good. They're very good.
That's the only thing I would say. Kennel, leash, Kong, and you're off. You're off.
Yep.
To the race.
And supervision.
Yeah, and supervision. And don't put a blanket in the kennel with your dog.
Correct.
With your
or one of those kennel pads. Yeah. It was funny. I had a client. You know, his dog. He had to sleep on this orthopedic bed, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I don't think this will go over good. Mm-hmm. So, he's got to sleep on this bed. Well, I come back out of the kennel. I go into the kennel, and this dog shredded this frickin' dog bed. There had to be 500 pounds of foam in my kennel blowing around in the fans, right? What a mess. It was a shit show.
I always think of Steve Segulik. And he had a brand new puppy.
I trained that dog.
The first one?
I trained all his dogs, yep.
Oh, did you? The first one.
Rusty.
That was the first one he had, and that's how that puppy died. Was it?
Yeah, he got into a seed bag or something.
Got into its blanket in the kennel and choked.
Yep.
But then I hunted. So here's one for you. Here's the dogs that I've hunted over that Scott Rumble has trained. I've hunted.
Oh boy.
I've hunted over Chesney.
Yep.
I think I've hunted over Marco's dog.
Oakley.
And there seems like there's another one that I've hunted over that you've trained too. And I can't remember now. But anyways, not important.
Well, I've done all the St. Lawrence dogs.
Yeah, but see, when I hunted with St. Lawrence, I wasn't with D. Roy and I wasn't with Josh. I was with another guide, and he didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, Craig, the pressure is still on, buddy. It's time to get a
dog.
Time to get.
I'm not any less close to getting a dog now after hearing all this.
Yeah. And where are you from?
Well, I live just north of Barrie. I'm up in Wabashine, kind of halfway between Barrie and Perry Sound.
So get a hold of Luther Marsh Hunting Retriever Club.
Yeah.
Well, we've got the Georgian Bay club as well.
Yep. Perfect. Just somebody, if you have questions or if you want to go to a training day to expose your puppy, man, get out there. Like, those people are great people and they will lead you in the right way.
Yeah. Well, not only that, if you can join up in a retriever club, they'll put off training days. So even though you've had your dog off to a trainer and you know what the routine is and you're doing your own maintenance with the dog, it is good to challenge your dog. Even though the dog has been trained and you're doing the thing, it's good to challenge the dog technically so that it's something that, and these retriever clubs put off great training days where it's very technical, sometimes very hard, and it's good for the dog. The dog loves it. The dog really do love it.
I always say the more places you can go and train, the better. Because I've actually went to look at dogs to buy that the dog could run every blind, every mark, everything thrown at him on this property. But when I took him off the property or to a different place, I didn't buy the dog because it was just
that's the
not good.
That's sometimes the frustrating thing with Bill Kennedy is that we train every day and we never train in the same spot 2 days in a row. So sometimes that could be expensive and on the gas tank, and sometimes it could be early morning rises and the whole bit. But it is it is necessary.
Great. Yep. Like I've loaded my whole crew up and went to Michigan and went and trained at Bob's farm.
Yeah.
For the weekend. I've also gone to other dog trainers, and I'm hoping to go to Ottawa and Perry Sound area this year to train with other guys just for 4 or 5 days. But
you should come down with us for a couple days. We got a couple.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, we got a couple good properties that it's some pretty technical stuff that we do, crossing points and in and out of water and stuff like that. It's pretty good. You should come down with us. It'd be fun.
It would be.
Boys, it's 5 minutes after 9. You know what, Scott? I really had a bunch of notes that I wanted to talk to you about when it comes to goose calling and stuff. So I'm not going to start that. I'm not going to get down that rabbit hole tonight, which means you just got to come back on at a different time, and we'll talk goose calling and stuff like that. But this was a good show because I'm passionate about the dogs, and I know you are as well, Scott, because that's your gig and that's what you do. The more people, and Craig, I cannot stress it enough, the more people that I come across that have dogs, they're happier hunters. That's just something I've noticed. Like when fellas have their dogs, like they're just, and listen, if your dog isn't the best dog, it doesn't matter. It's your dog. It's your dog, and your dog is doing it, and you've trained it, and you're the one that's doing it. And when I see a fella, even if their dog isn't polished, when their dog brings back a bird, you can see the joy in the dog owner's eyes, and I love it. And I love being part of it, and I love watching dogs work and the whole bit. So, we're going to keep the pressure on you, and if that means
we'll get there.
Yeah, we will. We will get there. And we'll keep bringing on guests to keep the peer pressure up.
Well, I was glad when you said Scott was coming on because I knew I recognized you at the Sportsman Show, but I couldn't place who you were. And then when Damien mentioned your name, I was like, oh shit, I need to talk to him while we're here. And then it was just it was so busy all the time, and I never got back over to talk to you. So when you said you were coming on, I was like, oh, perfect.
Yeah, and count yourself lucky because it's only me and Scott on. If Phil was on, well, then you'd have another friggin' talking head going on about dogs because Phil is a very passionate dog owner when it comes to this stuff as well, right? So he would be chiming in and saying, so at least you got to ask a few questions tonight, Craig, because if it was on, I don't know, between me and him, we may have overtaken most of the conversation.
I would have just sat here looking pretty.
Yeah. and the whole reason was to get you to ask questions, and you wouldn't have got to ask any because we would have dominated the conversation. Boys, thank you so much for this. This was a great show and a great one coming back after the Toronto Sportsman Show and rejigging and recentering and getting back into duck hunting and talking about hunting as opposed to talking about a trade show. So great to have you. Let's do a quick around the table and then we'll end her. Craig, to you first, my man.
It's great talking to you, Scott. Thanks for all the tips and pointers, a lot of information to think about. And like I said, that much closer.
Scott.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me. The biggest thing I got to say is just do your research and don't expect things to happen overnight.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, we won't steer him wrong when he's ready. Between Phil and I, and then we know you, and we know enough fellas that when he's ready to pull the trigger, we'll make sure that he's picking the right dog, the right bloodline, and he's
Perfect.
got everything. Yeah. We
Yeah,
want.
don't impulse buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, not at all. Scott, buddy, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for hanging out with me for a couple of days at the Toronto Sportsman Show. Thank you for being doing a goose calling demo with little to no notice, and you were like, "Yep, I'll do it." And you and I got up on the stage, and I don't know if anybody laughed at us or if they took what we said as educational, but I appreciate you, and I appreciate the help that you do for my brand, and anything I can do for you, you know, I always will. Thanks for coming on, and I am going to hold you to it that I want you to come back on again, and we can talk dogs again, but we do need to talk goose calling. That's
Sounds good.
That's a thing we got to talk about, but we can pivot into dogs as well.
Perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 219 of the Union 0430 podcast. As always, we're not experts, nor will we ever pretend to be. We're just a bunch of dudes that love hanging out and talking anything duck hunting. Until next time, big love. Surround yourself with good people, and good things will happen. Ciao.